Harlequin Special Release and HarlequinAudio present Snow Kisses by Diana Palmer. Performed by Todd McLaren. Chapter 1. The road was little more than a pair of ruts, making lazy brown paths through the lush spring grass of southern Montana, and Hank was handling the truck like a tank on maneuvers. But Abby gritted her teeth and didn't say a word. Hank, in his 50-plus years, had forgotten more about ranch work than she'd ever learn, and she wasn't about to put him in a bad temper by asking him to slow down. She stared out over the smooth, rolling hills where Cade's white-faced Herefords grazed on new spring grass. Montana. Big sky country. Rolling grasslands that seemed to go on forever under a canopy of blue sky. And amid the grass, delicate yellow and blue wildflowers that Abby had gathered as a girl. Here, she could forget New York and the nightmare of the past 2 weeks. She could heal her wounds and hide away from the world. She smiled faintly. A smile that didn't quite reach her pale brown eyes, and she clenched her hands around the beige purse in the lap of her shapeless dress. She didn't feel like a successful fashion model when she was on the McLaren ranch. She felt like the young girl who'd grown up in this part of rural southern Montana, on the ranch that had been absorbed by Cade's growing empire after her father's death 3 years earlier. At least Mellie was still there. Abby's younger sister had an enviable job as Cade's private secretary. It meant that she could be near her fiancé, Cade's ranch foreman, while she supported herself. Cade had never approved of Jesse Shane's decision to allow his eldest daughter to go to New York, and he had made no secret of it. Now, Abby couldn't help wishing she'd listened. Her brief taste of fame hadn't been worth the cost. She felt bitter. It was impossible to go back, to relive those innocent days of her youth when Cade McLaren had been the sun and moon. But she mourned for the teenager she'd been that long-ago night when he'd carried her to bed. It was a memory she'd treasured. But now it was a part of the nightmare she'd brought home from New York. She wondered with a mind numbed by pain if she'd ever be able to let any man touch her again. She sighed, gripping the purse tighter, as Hank took one rise a little fast and caused the pickup to lurch to one side. She clutched the edge of the seat as the vehicle all but rocked onto its side. "Sorry about that," Hank muttered, bending over the steering wheel with his thin face set into rigid lines. "Damn trucks! Give me a horse any day." She laughed softly. Once she would have thrown back her head and given out a roar of hearty laughter. She might have been a willowy ghost of the girl who left Painted Ridge at 18, come back to haunt old familiar surroundings. This poised, sophisticated woman of 22 was as out of place in the battered pickup as Cade would be in a tuxedo at the Met. "I guess you've all got your hands full," Abby remarked as they approached the sprawling ranch house. "Damn straight," Hank said without preamble as he slowed at a gate. "Storm warning's out and calving in full swing." "Snow?" she gasped, looking around at the lush greenery. But it was April, after all, and snow was still very possible in Montana. Worse, probable. But Hank was already out of the truck, leaving the engine idling while he opened the gate. "Drive the truck through," he called, for what seemed the 10th time in as many minutes, and Abby obediently climbed behind the wheel and put the truck in gear. She couldn't help smiling when she remembered her childhood. Ranch children learn to drive early, out of necessity. She'd been driving a truck since her 11th birthday,
Sample complete. Ready to continue?